Hello, there was this guy who told me he was from Brazil. Turned out that he was never living in Brazil, and that he was a Florida infiltrator into PETA. He was hired by SeaWorld to infiltrate PETA and to make PETA do something illegal, something radical and illegal. PETA got suspicious of him. They could already tell that he was trying to lead them onto something to incriminate them. And so they have their own protectors, okay, thank goodness, and their own lawyers and so on. And so their own investigator started to do some investigation on him, and the more he found out, the more they were pretty sure that this guy, this 20-something-year-old white guy with dark brown hair, that he was kind of English looking, that he was an infiltrator. And then he finally, and so SeaWorld hired that guy to, they probably paid him a lot of money. They hired him to protest SeaWorld, kind of like a mock pseudo protest over at the freeway, in order to make animal rights people look really bad. And they were doing all kinds of screaming and shouting and I don't know, all kinds of ridiculous physical behavior to make the animal rights movement look bad. And in the attempt to make SeaWorld look better. So, that's what haters usually do, is they put someone else down in order to, because they think that sort of somehow justifies their own behavior or makes them look better in some way, or makes the company that's being criticized look better. So, but it doesn't. Anyone who has a clear mind sees that's not a means to make someone look better. If someone murdered an animal or child, and another person who sympathizes with that murderer says to an activist, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, your hair looks bad anyway, you look like a man with a wig or whatever, so with that insult, it kind of like it's supposed to make the audience who watches think that, oh, the murderer is okay, it's the activist who looks like a man with a wig. Thus, we don't need to listen to him, right? To his or her accusation. He's ugly or she's ugly, or she looks like a guy. Thus, we don't need to listen to her. It's those kind of strawman type of maneuvers is that we see all the time happening on the internet when we're talking to haters. And the murderer is still a murderer, whether the accuser, his accuser, looks politically incorrect or not. The murderer is still a murderer, regardless of the lady who criticizes him and who says, you murderer, you should go to prison. This fact that he is a murderer has nothing to do with the accuser. The accuser is just pointing it out, that's all, to the public. Like, look, just let's look up from your soap operas just for 1 minute and look and see this murderer here. There's a murderer, and he needs to go to prison. Okay, so the murderer apologist the murderer sympathizer, the murderer's lawyer says, well, to the lady, you are ugly, thus your opinion doesn't count. But the murderer is still a murderer, whether she's ugly or not, right? Does this make sense? This is just to bring this to the broadest, to the most, hopefully the most explainable scenario. I'm trying to cut it down into an understandable scenario, so that people understand. I know it's not, most people don't. It's very difficult to explain this. We need to become clear about this. We need to listen more. Listen. Yeah. Listen and look. The murderer is still a murderer. Whether the accuser of the murderer makes herself look bad by being a party spoiler, or being not well dressed, or not having had the time to put makeup on, or not having long sharp fingernails or whatever, or wearing Birkenstock shoes, or being practical or whatever, and not being pleasing to society or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, we need to, can we look at this? No, I mean, it's just look, can we just look at it just this one time to understand? I know it's not easy to, yeah, because our senses, we're lured in by Kim Kardashian and how she looks, and everyone who models herself after that, and we want to take sides with the beautiful, and not with the dorky kind of person, woman or man or whatever, the man who's being accused of looking silly or clownish or gay, it's always the favorite word, or the woman who's accused of being a dyke or a boy or whatever. So not look at this, the person who is being ridiculed, but look at what the person who's being ridiculed actually has to say. Just for once, just let it sink in for once, to actually listen to those who, and that's why they go through a lot of trouble to make their activists look very pretty when they do a street performance or something, because to take this disturbing variable away, to remove the variable that muddies the water, the variable of she isn't on the level of prettiness, or she's just an ugly activist, or this, to rub in that stereotype of, you are an ugly activist, you don't have time to stand in the mirror for 10 hours a day. Instead you do activism, shame or something, That's what the haters do, They will shame someone for not being in front of the mirror for 10 hours. They will shame someone for actually spending their time, their life, doing activism, writing, trying to educate people, and not be super concerned about their looks, how they appear to the public. And this is being exploited to the fullest extent. That's why there are so many people bullied into suicide and bullied into starving themselves to be thin and to look like a Calvin Klein model and stuff like that. We need to look at this, okay? So, and this guy in Orlando who is a Yuji follower, because Yuji tells people they don't have to take responsibility for anything. They never have to look within, or they never have to do anything basically. They can just party and do whatever they want. They could they can murder, and it doesn't matter, whatever, you know. And so criminals flock to that Yuji. They like that. They love that. You know, they love that guy. They think that is super stellar. That they don't have to do anything. They never have to introspect. They never have to work on themselves. They never have to strive to become a better person, or to care more, or to move towards making the world a better place. It's all relative, you know. It's all existentialism, you know, to them. So it's like it's a very welcomed religion, sort of, you know, even though he didn't sell it as a religion, but he sold himself as the anti-guru. But it's another self-image. You know. It's another image. It's just a That's why we have to pay so much attention, you know. We think, oh, we got it, we got it. No, we are no longer religious. But then look again, and it's again another self-image of something else, something in a different color, something in just a different shape. Maybe more glowing, more spectacular, or less spectacular, or more hidden, more murky. It's always a self-image. You know. We have to pay very close attention to it. We need to dissolve the self-images. We need to dissolve this need for enlightenment, or having power, or needing people under us. It's very important. But it seems to be very difficult to this concept, to understand that. It seems to be very, very difficult, because most people they are so drilled by humanity around them. If you take any single person, put them into a forest in Siberia, you give them enough clothes and all of this, and a tent and all of this to keep warm, and enough food to last them for years. And if you did this hypothetical experiment, and you put anyone on the street, this guy from Orlando, the Infiltrator, you put him into a forest, in the middle of the forest in Siberia with the helicopter, and you drop him off there, and you leave him alone there, and let him fend for himself. Chances are high that after a couple of years, he will start to mellow down, and he will start to actually see himself and see all of that eventually. But that can make some people crazy. It has made some people crazy. This actual looking at yourself, you know, like actually looking at yourself. When you look in the mirror, Theo Swan talks about this too, you know, like when you really look at yourself, you really look at yourself without I'm pretty, or without this image, or without this selfie, you know, or without this without the need for something, without, you know, or without self, without the being a narcissist, just looking at the picture, without self-hate too. Just let this all fall away. Just look at yourself for what it is. A face, feelings. What do your eyes say when you look in the mirror, you know? And that would happen in the middle of the forest in Siberia, without a mirror, without an actual mirror, just looking at the trees. Maybe an animal will come over and sit there to give you a guidance for a while. Animals are spirit guides, angels, gods. And then that itself is the mirror, because I am the tree. Yeah. I am that. Its existence. Yeah. The tree's existence, I am existence. We are existence. We are not what society dictates to us. Yeah. Society is completely cut off from all of this. So it cuts us off. And these people, they are so immersed into this, what feels so incredibly real is this measurement of him better than him, or her better than her, or this here, we have a hierarchy of popularity, of beauty, and so on. This is extremely toxic. Do you understand all of I don't know. But Yuji taught that you have no responsibility, so people flock to that. They think that's cool. So it turns out, so I was talking to this guy, and he told me he's an animal rights activist, but I became very suspicious because what he was saying was extremely radical and extremely hostile and brutal. So I tested him, and it turned out, so one of the major tests, you can test someone who claims to be an activist. It's very simple to test them. You ask them, the first question is that I asked, would you run after a puppy dog who had run into a busy street? So if they right away say, yes, of course, that's already a plus. So then I asked him, what is he a Sea Shepherd member? Or does he support Sea Shepherd Conservation Society? And he said no. So that gave it away. That gave it away that he is most likely an infiltrator. So about half a year later, I see his photo in the Google News associated with infiltration into PETA. He and two other guys hired by SeaWorld in Orlando were hired to infiltrate into PETA headquarters and to try to make them do something illegal and radical, and so that they can incriminate them, so that they can put them in prison. So PETA got suspicious. They hired the investigator, and it turned out that he is actually an infiltrator. It turned out that he was paid by SeaWorld, and most people don't know. They don't. This kind of stuff is also never talked about. It's never. SeaWorld, they do those kind of things. They will hire people to do these illegal things, to slander, to rally people up into doing something illegal. That's an illegal act. Okay? It's an illegal act to make someone do something like this, to make someone infiltrate into an organization. That is illegal. But SeaWorld got away with it. Nothing happened to them. I don't know what happened to that guy, whether he was actually imprisoned or not. But it all came out. The facts came out. But then I don't know if he even had to pay his dues for this, what he did. But anyway, the reason why I'm talking about this is because we have to be extremely careful. There are people who are hired by the corporate agenda, and sometimes they hire people who they think are down and out, or who are psychologically unstable, or who don't really have an aim in their life, don't really have anything that they're doing, that they're standing for, that they're not really something that they believe in, no solid foundation for life and living and purpose. So they hire those kind of people. They have people like this that look out on the internet to find people like this. And they will, the hitmen, they will always lay themselves out as journalists or as some kind of working for this or that newspaper, or they just want to do an interview, and then they start to lure people in, and then they start to do their offer, what if you did this, then I will offer you that much money. And so they'll probe and see how far they can go with someone to make someone one of their executioners, one of their hitmen, or one of their manipulators or infiltrators. We have to be very careful about this. Is happening all the time. People are hired by the corporate agenda. There's an entire conglomeration on the top it's a money-making, hand-washing summit that consists of many different corporations that they all have one goal, is to shut up anyone who accuses them, and anyone who who whistles it out. Anyone who writes about it, anyone who exposes the corporate agenda. They want to get rid of them any way they can. Okay? They will shut them up. They will try to make them crazy. They will do all kinds of things with them. They manipulate them, and they send those kind of infiltrators and hit people and just collaborators after the activists. That's why we activists have to be very, very careful. But this should not discourage us from speaking out the truth, and from caring, and from listening to our inner guts. And I'm saying this message to all of you. I'm saying this also to all of you infiltrators out there. You are humans. You are living beings. You're animals. Okay? You are alive. You have a brain. You have a history. You have a past. You have feelings too. Wouldn't you also like to live in a world that is better versus a world that is collapsing on itself? So don't help those. Don't help those companies anymore, no matter how much they pay you. Don't help those companies. Don't do it, even if it's just the slightest thing. If you say, oh, well, it's just this little thing, why not? It doesn't make a difference. It does. It absolutely does. You could be either on the bandwagon of making the world worse, of corrupting, or on the bandwagon to make the world a better place. Which side do you want to be on, is my question. Make the decision. I'm telling all of you, I'm not talking to the kind-hearted ones. I'm talking now to the wider audience, and I'm talking to those who have been making the wrong decisions in the past. Don't do this anymore. Don't continue to cater to the corporate agenda and to the corrupting of planet Earth. Okay? Go the other route. Turn around. You can turn around right now on the spot. Turn down that money and say yes to love. And go in the love direction. Money will come to you. Okay? But don't do it for money. Go in the love direction, because it's the right direction to go to for yourself and every life around you. Okay? Go to make the world a better place. You have a responsibility to do this. Do it and enjoy the process of doing it. Take care.